All right, the last section of things you need to remember from previously are some math concepts. We'll be using a lot of logs in this class. So you need to know one natural log. Let's change that to an easier to see color. Natural log is ln. You should be able to find that on your calculator. We will also be using log base 10, and that is just log on your calculator. Now, in order to go the opposite way of those, like if you're trying to solve something that is a natural log, you need to know the inverse, okay? So the inverse of ln is e to the whatever power. So natural log of x, the inverse is e to the x. If you're talking about logs, the log of x, the inverse is 10 to the x. So that's how you solve for them, okay? So if I said solve for x in this specific math problem, you want to solve for x, all right? So I'm going to walk through this one. If you want to pause and try it first, you can, but I am going to walk through it. First of all, I have a natural log of something that is divided here. Natural logs, if they are divided, can be broken up into the natural log of the numerator minus the natural log of the denominator. So this is the same thing as the natural log of x minus the natural log of 0.53 equals negative 3.45. Okay, if it was multiplied, then you could divvy it up and then it's just plus. Okay, so this one you will see a lot. So I broke this up so I could get the x by itself. So then I would do natural log of x equals 3, you would do negative 3.45. I would add natural log of 0.53 to both sides. I get the natural log of x. Actually, I didn't write that one down. So I've got negative 3.45. And then I added the natural log of 0.53. I'm just showing you the algebra here. Okay. And then to get x, I would take whatever my answer was there, and I would do e to that power. So I would go e to the whatever negative 3.45 plus the natural log of 0.53 was, and get that x is 0.0168. Now you can also use a solver button on your calculator. If you have a solver button, that's perfectly fine. But if you don't, this is how you're going to do that. Okay. Now you also need to be able to use the quadratic equation or the solver button on your calculator. This is why I recommend using a TI-89. Okay, quadratic equation is just this. If you need it, I will give it to you if you don't remember it. What A, B, and C are is if you have your equation set up in this fashion, A is the coefficient of x squared, B is the coefficient of x, and C is the singular number by itself. So if I gave you this problem and I said solve for x, this is actually a setup we will probably see very often. You're like, well, I got an x squared, I got an x down here, an x down here. This is kind of a pain. I'm going to type it into my solver. Go for it. Or you need to be able to break it down if you don't have that. So I am going to set this up. Essentially, you got to do all the math to get it to be in this form. So I'm going to do that first. So if you're going to do this with me, pause it and do that first. Now I know I didn't show all the steps here, but what I did is you should have gotten down to this. This is A, this is then B, and this is C, and you can plug that into the quadratic equation to get your two possible values for x. In this case, you should get that x is 0.9375, or, oh, screen share go, or 0.09107. All right, so if you need help with that, come visit me during office hours or something, or if you get a solver button on your calculator, you will be just fine.